Welcome, everyone. Today's C-Suite Sherpas podcast is going to be focused on our guest, Michael. Remember, our podcast is all around people that provide great services to the C-Suite. So, Michael, tell us about yourself and your business and who you work with.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here. My business is solely centered around the personal aspects of design and iteration in both the physical and digital worlds. We want to bring a personalized service to people that want to execute and market, but simply don't understand how. Having sat in the position in multiple seats in various companies throughout the world, I can relate to them differently simply because I've been there. I've been in their roles. I know how tough it is to go in front of a CFO and get money to go to market. Here we are to say, let's put together a cohesive plan and implementation strategy to get you to market faster.
Oh, excellent. So let's say, I own a business. I've got this new product. I want to go to market with it. Maybe I've tried, I've struggled. Give me a sense of when you jump in and work with a client, what is it you're doing to help them out? And what are the outcomes that they can expect?
The best thing that I can say is sometimes people will spend exorbitant amounts of capital to get to market where perhaps they didn't have to. Let's understand your product. Let's understand your consumer, your target market, etc. And then ask those hard questions. Why are we here? Do you need to do a specific site, real estate location, retail store, etc.? Or do you need to do some sort of omni-channel discovery method through third-party vendors to get to market? It could be as simple as evaluate real estate, your target markets, your target demographics, and see if that's the right fit for you. And then from there, get into that design implementation that fits your product, rather than taking a product and then going to find a retail store and making it work. Products just don't work that way. The American consumer is a very specific consumer compared to others throughout the world. They like change. They like different environments in retail. They like to understand what the product is and be attracted to it. Our method is very simple. We want to make sure that we're understanding what the owner's vision is, but we also want to make sure that the owner understands what the consumer's vision is of their product. Between the two, we put up a good mix and get them into market as quick as we can.
Now, I know you mentioned real estate. Are you helping people find real estate locations for their retail stores or hospitality business?
I've worked at various Fortune 50 companies throughout the world. Ritz-Carlton, Apple, Samsung, Nextel, Guess Incorporated. They have a methodology. And what I've learned from working with folks like Steve Jobs, J.Y. Lee, they have a methodology of success, and it's replicated. I took all of my successes from working internally at those companies and said, let's come up with a program and a methodology that can impact multiple people and companies. It could be in retail sourcing for real estate. It could be simply in just understanding the strategic evaluation of a product. In our case, we like to look at markets and say, why is Dallas different from New York? Why is New York different from Miami? Why is Paris different from London? And we can then identify targets within those particular sections that meet your demographic and your consumer. Where most people say, I have to have a big retail store in New York because I want visibility and brand experience. That's great. You can do that. But is that where you need to be? We like to look at stuff and say, what's the biggest bang for your buck to get in market as quickly as possible with the design iterations that you need to make the best impact of the product on your consumer, on your clients.
So give me an example of the benefits that a typical client would get from working with you, because there's a lot of competition out there, a lot of people that are in that space. So tell us what sets you apart. What benefits do you get? And is there something special you're doing to differentiate?
I use an example that maybe some people are listening to today. They'll get a phone call, an email, and somebody's trying to sell them something. What I like to say is, I can relate to you as the business owner or vice president of construction or design or real estate, etc., because I've sat there in those shoes. I know what you go through every day. My team is made up of people that have not only been great general contractors and designers, but we've sat internally at some of the largest, most revenue-driven companies in the world. Working within Samsung taught us how difficult large companies can be to get through the quote-unquote red tape. We can engage with people at a small level, a mom and pop level, or we can engage with large companies, like the one we spent 18 months for, client that is a confidential name that we worked in New York City. We're redeveloping their campus up in New York for 18 months. It's one of the most reputable companies in the world. We have that secret sauce we talked about earlier. How do we engage with those people at the minutia level, or how do we engage with these people at the larger level? I think we're successful simply because we understand what people go through every day. Having sat in their chair, we know exactly how tough it is to go to market with a product.
Yeah. It's interesting that I'm curious from your perspective that, this move towards work from home, online retail, virtual hospitality experiences. It seems like the industry is really morphing away from physical space. Now, that's a general kind of macro environment. So, how are you helping people that have a few retail storefronts or locations? How do you help make those destinations where people really want to continue to come back over and over again? Is there something you're doing there?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit
Sometimes,
more about that.
yeah. And one of our taglines is we want to make sure that we're bringing groundbreaking ideas to realization in the physical and digital world simply by bringing the audience closer to the experience. One of the things you see people say, oh, I'd like to go look at something in a store before I buy it online because they may or may not get a cheaper price or whatever. They still want that physical interaction with product in order to convert into a sale. So what they're desiring is the impression of some sort of physical experience to say, yep, this thing works for me. You can't get that from a screen. You can't get that from your phone, your tablet. Yeah, you might be able to get something cheap, but if you look at the return rates that happen from companies like Amazon, it's stronger than people realize. So what we thought 4 years ago, 5 years ago with COVID, it's the end of retail and hospitality is over and restaurants say, yeah, for a short amount of time, it was like that. Everybody knows it was a tough time. But I can tell you, real estate continues to be a prime factor in decision making for a lot of retailers simply because they want the brand recognition that they can't get online. Some sites are 3,000 square feet, some are 15,000 square feet, some are 25,000, like some of the flagships that we built for Apple, or certainly the hotel behind me, the Ritz-Carlton Naples. The hotels are always going to be around. And Americans in particular always want an experience to go with some of the things that they're seeing with that product. So is retail dead? No, it's morphed. Retail execution logistics planning has definitely morphed to go along with it, and along with the massive changes in the labor market.
We've been hearing about the death of the movie industry, movie theaters. They're dead. Nobody's going to go anymore. I've had clients in the movie theater business for over 100 years, and they
Yep.
continue to morph. People love experiences. They love to get together, but they also demand that it's not just a show up generic. They want a customized one-to-one experience where they feel like they're special. I'm wondering how that trend plays into your business and what you do for people.
Sure. When defining a physical or a digital experience, the company creates various digital experiences on phones, laptops, whatever. But the sequence that we'll look at is looking at the particular path that the consumers are going through when they walk in your hotel. If you look at a Ritz-Carlton, everybody knows it's a Ritz-Carlton. And the first moment you walk in, not just from the ambassadors of service, and they give an unbelievable top tier amount of service, much like the Apple people do, but you go into a McDonald's. You know it's a McDonald's. Brand recognition the moment you walk in. We want to understand from the people we engage with in the boardrooms, tell us about your brand. What's driving you to come into work every day and push your product out of market? How are you identifying with your consumer, and how are the consumers identifying with you? Years ago, when I worked with Ron Johnson at Apple, he used to say, Walmart's coming into the world and Walmart's going to end retail. It spurred off Kohl's, it spurred off Best Buy, it spurred off all these other brands. Flash forward, people are saying Amazon's
Yeah.
the end of retail. That's not the case. You got to be able to go into market effectively and making sure that you're making an impactful presence. When you look at the Apple stores, every single design, every single method to bring people in was driven towards product affiliation. Product affiliation meant you would have a conversion higher than your competitors simply because they became fans of your product. Oh, I just have a little phone. Much like the Samsung E37 experience that I was part of in New York, award-winning, we received accolades simply because we were putting together a 55,000 square foot building where you couldn't buy a single thing. Well, you could buy a cup of coffee and a donut on the second floor. Our number one goal was for people to understand our product because they didn't quite understand the complete ecosystem of Samsung. After that, we were very successful. Seeing 1.5 million people a year walking through that space and not one of them buying anything.
Normally, that would be called a failure.
Yes.
Under the old way of looking at foot traffic and
Yep.
conversions, right?
Yep.
Another one that comes to mind too, and then we'll shift gears here in a second, is Tesla. My daughter bought a Tesla. I went shopping for a Tesla, and I was amazed at the going to a Tesla, and I want to call it a dealership, but it was really more of a store
Yep.
that had a Tesla that you could touch and feel, but you couldn't buy that Tesla. You had to order one, and then they basically will let you know when it came and they would ship it to you. I think that reinforces what you said. People aren't going to buy a car online unless they can touch it, feel it, smell it. People take it in through their senses. Retail's not dead. It's just the way we used to shop is dead, and it's a whole new experience. So that's cool that you're in the middle of this. Okay, let's shift gears for a second. Let's have a little bit of fun. I call it the lightning round. I've got some quick questions. There's no wrong answers, just to give people a chance to get to know you personally. You ready? Here we go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
If you can only grab one item during the zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
My family.
Good answer. Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
Try not to be too perfect, because perfection is something you can't obtain.
Favorite movie?
Wow. I'm a big sap for old movies. Casablanca, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Good for you. Let's fast forward to the current streaming service era. Is there a streaming series that you like to watch?
Tulsa King. I'm addicted.
Tulsa King. That's a good one. I like that too. Favorite book, something you've read recently, some book that had an impact on you?
I was in the military in the Marine Corps for years, so I like reading nonfiction books. One is about Carlson's Raiders from World War II, the original Raider company. Some of them perished on Macon Island very horridly, but I read a lot of nonfiction. I don't usually read a lot of fiction books.
Yeah. Bucket list item that you've already accomplished.
I've lived in Europe. I've worked in virtually every country of the world except for Cuba, and I've actually worked in North Korea as well. If I ever work in Cuba, that's like the tagline to say Michael's getting ready to retire.
One bucket list item that you haven't accomplished yet, and it might be working in Cuba. Is that it?
Yep, it'd be amazing.
Last question. Biggest obstacle that you've personally had to overcome, and what's one big takeaway that you learned from that obstacle?
I've been in this business for 30 years. I would say technology and adaptation to technology. I've been awful at it. I've been working hard at it for the last 5 years. But think about it, 30 years ago, 1994, the internet was, whatever those services were called, AOL was just scratching the surface back then. You look at where everything is today. iPhone created in 2007. You look at Mac, you look at VR, all that stuff that's there. We progressed so quickly. Well, Michael Koch has not been very good at progressing with it. So I kind of made it one of those goals to move with it. I'm old school blueprints. So I was part of that generation and all the other stuff that we're doing. It's been a bit of a struggle for me.
I hear you. If any of our viewers want to collaborate with you, contact you, understand more about what you do, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. The website tells us about everything that we do. It's www.themichaelkochgroup.com. Cook is spelled K-O-C-H. So themichaelkochgroup.com tells you all about it. You guys can call or email me anytime. Information's on the website too. So please give me a ring. What do you think about this? Yeah, let's sit down and talk. It's fun just to hear what people have as far as ideas.
We'll help out. We'll post all that information on the description when we post this on our YouTube channel, so everyone will have a chance to reach out to you. If you didn't get a chance to write that down, check out the description on the YouTube channel video for Michael, and you'll have all his contact information. Michael, I wish we had more time. It's been great getting to know you a little bit, and I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Look forward to working with you again in the future.